Good afternoon, and many thanks for the opportunity to speak today. It's a great privilege to be asked to talk to like-minded individuals on light rail and track, in particular extracting value from the supply chain. So my name's Jamie Kelly, no relation to Dermot Kelly, unfortunately. There's a rumour that I'm the more handsome younger brother. I represent Volker Rail Specialist Businesses, so yes, we are the greedy contractor in the room. So, please be aware that I will not overrun today. I'll make you that promise, and will be terrific value. So, my railway experience started when I was 11, towing rails on Hull docks. Now, thankfully, our recruitment policy is a little bit more mature now for that. So, we now wait till people at least in their teens before we allow them to tow rails. So my experience has allowed me to have a very broad overview of the railway industry with a particular experience in light rail and freight. So I built heavy rails, I built super heavy rail with 66-ton axle loads, and I've also built very, very small railways for radar rings for the military and indeed sewage rings for the utilities, which is not a pleasant experience, let me tell you. So I've come today to talk about value and how we extract it from the supply chain, and perhaps also how we extract value from sponsors and the like. So if we take a global view, I think we all agree in this room today that the light rail community offers terrific value to the stakeholders and the communities that we serve. We are safe in a very, very difficult environment. We have an excellent safety record, which is only getting better. So, dealing with urban environments, many people on a night out in Manchester, trying to climb aboard a train, it can be quite difficult. So, our safety record is impeccable in difficult circumstances. We are, of course, sustainable, no matter how we measure our sustainability targets. We do offer excellent environmental credentials with light rail offering zero carbon emissions at point of use. We can use green energy to power our fleet of light rail vehicles. And we can help our cities and communities meet their environmental targets that are set by government. So in terms of our sustainability and the economy, I think we all agree that light rail does sustain communities. It gets people from where they live to where they work or where they socialise or where they use public services. So light rail and metros are a great enabler for our economy, and that should be applauded. We also have a terrific social benefit in terms of our sustainability. We facilitate people's careers, we help young people get to schools, we help our communities move around and facilitate their lives. And that needs to be applauded because it's a critical element of what we do. And of course, light rail must be seen to be affordable. I think the average price of a single journey in the UK is less than £2. So if you consider that against other items or modes of transport, this sector offers terrific value to our communities. And of course, I think it's fair to say that we are a reliable sector. I think, without trying to criticise our heavy rail colleagues, when I get on a tram, it's a very pleasant experience, and I know I'm going to get to my destination. And on occasions, I board the East Coast Main Line from Retford with the hope of getting to London on time, never mind expectation. So we are reliable as a sector, and again, that should be applauded. So some numbers, really. So us engineers love a number. So I think there's 9 light rail and metro systems in the UK. I know James thinks 12, but we'll say 9 for now. And then we have over 460 miles of track. So those engineers that were born after 1973, when we did go metric, by the way, that's about 750 kilometres of track in the UK. We have a superb customer satisfaction rating at nearly 90%, and we offer over 200 million passenger journeys a year, which equates to approximately 21 million journey miles. And again, for those metric people, that's just over 33.5 million kilometres. So our numbers are good and they're getting better. And I think it's fair to say that our recovery post-COVID has been impressive, and that's down to the efforts of everybody in this room. So today, my talk today really is to talk about value in the supply chain. I think it's very, again, we're a contracting organisation, so there's a perspective here to be had. I'm a track engineer, and given the audience, I feel like I'm amongst friends today, mostly. I can't see many QSs out there, so I'm pretty safe with that. So my perspective is from a track perspective and an infrastructure perspective, and that covers a wide variety of activities, from building new tramways and light rail systems, to renewing them, to maintaining them, and obviously some emergency reaction as well. So again, a broad experience on many, many networks. The one thing we have in common, though, in all the networks is people often say, but you're very expensive. You know, you don't offer good value. We need to counter that. You know, as an infrastructure provider, we need to offer the best possible value to our customer. We need to be sustainable at point of delivery, and we need to offer our clients and our communities the very best service. And that means minimising disruption, it means offering the best quality, and it means ensuring that what we leave behind is safe. So the accusation of being expensive is potentially merited, with the average mile per tram track in the UK is estimated at over £80 million per mile. Now, that doesn't compare to our German colleagues, who have an average track construction price of about £24 million per mile. Bear in mind, HS2 is estimated to be £400 million a mile. We maybe do offer better value than we think. But it's not just about track construction where we look at lots of money. Rail replacement can also be a challenge in terms of adding value as well, with rail replacement costs through maintenance anywhere between £2,000 a linear metre and £10,000 a linear metre. We can see that we need to offer better value with that. So, we use the word value an awful lot. What is value? And it's very interesting, because the obvious answer is cost. People always go down to cost. Our view is price is what you pay and value is what you get. Okay, so if we are all looking for a Tesco's tin of value beans, we can all get those for 40 pence. But if we want a Tesco's finest tin of beans, then we're going to expect much more and get more in return. So how do we define what good is? What is our measure of value? The classic triangle there, the dichotomy between quality, price and programme. Obviously, the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle, and most people in this room will be familiar with this, especially those who work in project management and try to manage budgets as well as people. But it's no longer a 3 problem. It's now a 5 problem, because we've got to consider safety. And that's not just the safety of our people, but it's the safety of our stakeholders and our communities around us, not only when we're carrying out the work, but through life. The 5th problem we need to try and deal with is, of course, our environmental constraints, our net zero targets, which are mandated upon us. So now, when we look at value, it's not just how much does it cost, it's also how safe have we been, it's also how quick have we been, what's the minimum disruption, it's also about did we increase our carbon footprint or decrease our carbon footprint. So as can be seen, that the word value is easily used. Now, within the Volker Rail business, we measure value as money earned from expenditure. So our client looks at what they get for the money they spend, which are opposite ends of the scale. You know, we measure value in money earned and profit made. Our clients measure value in lack of profit or lack of money spent for a fixed product. So as we can see, the value question is not just it costs too much. It's much more nuanced than that. So, our top 8. I couldn't think of 10, so you'll have to make do with 8. So, how do we add value, and how do we extract that from the supply chain and from our partners? So, the first one, and my colleagues will be really frustrated with me because I say this all the time, is what does good look like? How do we define success? What is the goal? And it's sometimes very difficult to establish that. You know, we can say, I want a bit of track laid in 10 hours to this quality and this price. However, that goal is not very well communicated. So in at number 2 in our hit parade of how to add value is communicate that goal. Now that may be the sponsor saying that he needs a certain, or they need a certain number of metres of track produced in a certain amount of time, or it might mean safety targets are met, or even carbon reduction targets met. But is that goal communicated? Often there's some mission creep and that gets diluted. And of course I would say number 3, wouldn't I? Being a contractor, it's not just about early contractor engagement anymore, it's about very early contractor engagement. You know, the more mature systems have realised that that's the case. Embed the contracting teams in with at the budget stage. Very often we get compared on our out-term price against a budget that was set way too early with very limited input from people who've actually built things and maintained things. So we constantly get compared to a budget which was unrealistic. And of course that makes terrific headlines. And number 4, understand the risk and assumptions. It's very easy to take a price and accept it. But what was that price based on? What assumptions were made? Have we assumed that the services have all been diverted? Have we assumed that somebody else is paying for the traffic management? All these things either add or deflate from a price and can really, really affect the perception of value. Risk ownership as well is critical. You know, it's very easy to assume that the contractor will take all the risk because the sponsor's paying them some money. That's not the case, unfortunately. And here we go. And to back Andreas's excellent presentation, can we start now designing not just for construction and ease of construction, but for the next generation of renewals? So when we're replacing rails, and we all know rails wear out pretty quickly, especially on extremely tight radius curves that we experience in the light rail industry. So can we embed within our initial construction the ability to do some renewals without destroying the surface finish? You know, here's one. National standards, anybody? Anybody got an idea about how to do a tramway the same way every time? Marilena is here with us today, and Marilena's got a beautiful new tramway to maintain, but with 2 very distinct construction methods used in the construction phase. Now, I can only imagine that's going to be a very difficult maintenance problem to have when it gets through life. So, you know, if anyone's got an idea about a national standard, I'm all ears, or I've got some ideas as well myself. And here's another one, number 7, resource availability. So we work in the light rail sector, but we've got to be aware that our resource is limited. You know, and there's constant competition from the heavy rail sector for our skills and our equipment and our plant. You know, we've got a very limited and unfortunately ageing workforce. And I'll use the example of welders. There are probably only 5 teams of welders in this country that you would trust to weld a new rail section to a heavily worn old rail section, and probably only 3 individuals of those you could really put your money on. You know, and we're lucky we employ them. You know, so please see me for rates afterwards if you're interested in that. But this resource availability, it's all required at the same time, unfortunately. You know, we need to maintain our operations. We understand that, but we do everything on summer holidays. You know, we could genuinely sell our men 10 times over in some holidays and Easter holidays. You know, so this leads me to the next point: is can we aggregate our thoughts as an industry and not compete against each other? Another example would be the use of a tamper. You know, we've got some excellent tampers that we supply to the industry, road delivered, don't need a mainline connection, but we have separate contracts with separate operations and separate networks, and the rates vary massively. So my advice to all the operators out there would be, if you come to talk to us and get an industry rate, you'd get much better value. And that's exactly the same with some of the skills that we possess. So the next generation opportunity. So I wanted to use the word challenge here, but apparently challenge has got negative connotations. So the next opportunity. So can we review our design philosophy? Can we build or design with a whole life cycle view? Let's not just build it for a cost. You know, let's not build it to a budget. Let's think about where the real cost comes in later in life. The real cost comes in not just the price for a rail renewal, but the disruption that is caused by us taking out a tight radius curve for 4 days in a city centre. You know? So if we designed in the fact that we need to renew that on a regular basis, we could offer greater value and less disruption. The real opportunity, though, for us, I think, is to look at modular systems. So we have a system in the UK at the minute whereby we flood lots of concrete on lots of streets, around lots of rails. In the middle of winter, we have very limited quality control. We're at the behest of the weather. So perhaps, why don't we build it in a factory? You know, why don't we design our surface finish in a factory and have skilled people, or I don't know, machines maybe, produce a surface finish that meets all our highway requirements, meets the landscape architect's requirements, and golly, that's not always easy. With our scars and our backs from Manchester, with specific stones quarried from specific quarries and seams, it's quite a challenging operation. So that's really where we need to be. You know, we have the opportunity to build the third generation of tramways in the UK. Can we take the time? Can we look to see how we can extend the life of those third generations, and indeed extend the life of the second generation systems that we're looking at the minute, and think about the cost then and not just now? Thank you very much. That's my speech for today.